Now, before getting into today's video, I want to take a moment to talk about one of our partners, GamerSupps. Fellas, I cannot recommend GamerSupps enough. They offer the highest quality drinks for gamers out there. All of their flavors taste fantastic with only 1 calorie, no carbs, 0 sugar, and only 100 milligrams of caffeine per scoop. And if you have dietary restrictions, GamerSupps already has you covered, as they are both keto and diabetic friendly. And they even have non-caffeinated options. Starting today at 3 p.m., GamerSupps is releasing their very first anime collection in collaboration with Jujutsu Kaisen, as well as Crunchyroll. This collaboration features 5 brand new shaker cups, as well as their brand new flavor, Cursed Energy. No lie, guys, this is such a dope collaboration. If you're interested in trying out Cursed Energy and picking up one of these shaker cups, be sure to use code Aztecross at checkout for 10% off on your order. And a big reason why I'm asking you to use code Aztecross is, guys, we are so close. GamerSupps is offering us our very own shaker cup, which you and I on Twitch are gonna come up with ourselves. Some of you want Mama Mara on the cover. Some of you have asked for Sabbath there. Weirdly enough, though, some of you have asked for me to be in some cat ears. That may be a little bit too far, but we're getting very, very close. So use our code, guys. And again, big shout out to GamerSupps for sponsoring today's video. Guys, I know we already reviewed this weapon, but I just had to take it for one more spin. You see, a lot of people have already said that this exotic scout rifle sucks, but I have to ask, does it really though? Like, don't get me wrong, I know this is not an S-tier exotic, but this thing is getting a lot of flack from the community. Some of it justified, but at the same time, I gotta ask myself, Cross, why do we like playing with this thing? Is it the utility? Is it the fact that it can slow targets mid-gunfight and watching that Guardian try to limp away, but they can't because they're slowed? It's a beautiful thing, guys. We have a full detailed guide on how to get this exotic, by the way, as well as the best loadouts to crush that final boss. If you haven't checked that out already, today though, guys, we're doing a deep dive. Wicked Implement is a 180 round per minute stasis exotic scout rifle. It comes with the intrinsic trait, creeping attrition. Rapidly landing precision hits causes targets to become slowed. And after landing 3 precision hits, you hear this sexy audio cue. Huh? You like that? You'll also see creeping attrition pop up at the left-hand side of your screen, and you now have roughly 4 seconds to get that 4th precision shot, which will slow the target that you hit. Now keep in mind, guys, you do not need to land precision shots on the same target. You can hit Fred, George, and Bob and land that 4th shot on Charles, and it will apply to slow. Thank you, Charles. Now keep in mind, there's also forgiveness between the 3 initial precision shots. So it's not like you gotta land any of these super fast. Now upon landing that slowed shot, if you land 2 more precision shots on that same target, this will cause the target to become frozen. Now granted, you're only gonna get use out of this against higher health targets, due to the most red bars inside of PvE, not having enough health to take that many shots to the face. Even inside of PvP, you're not gonna really get the freeze. You'll get the slow, but not the freeze. Now when we took this into a lost sector, I was able to sit there and just keep peppering Carl, slowing him, freezing him, pretty much indefinitely until I needed to reload. Now the other exotic perk is called Tithing Harvest. Precision final blows while creeping attrition is active creates a stasis shard that returns to you. And collecting stasis shards refills the magazine. Now these stasis shards that form also return to you very fast, pretty much from any range. They aggressively track right back to you. You can utilize armor mods like Elemental Charge, where collecting those stasis shards have an escalating chance to give you armor charge. Combining this with things like stasis weapon surge mods, and you're pretty much topping yourself off for a damage buff. Now what's also really interesting is that you don't need stasis shards from the weapon itself. If you're creating stasis shards just with your own abilities, that being your nade or your class ability if you're using Hoarfrost, or pretty much any other means, this will auto reload the weapon. Now stat wise, we're looking at 62 range, 63 stability, 44 handling, 31 reload speed, 65 aim assist, your typical 20 zoom, 18 airborne effectiveness. Decent stats, nothing horrible, but pretty much any legendary 180 can pass this in terms of stability, and I guess for my folks that want to overload range. Now it does have good aim assist, only beaten out by Hung Jury at 67. A high A value is also present here, however still getting beat out by Hung Jury at 22. Now in terms of range, that 62 stat equal to damage dropping off at about 80 meters. Keep in mind on most maps, you'll be just fine, at least range wise. It's a scout rifle, guys. Now on to the performance of this exotic. I want to start with PvP, as believe it or not, this is where the weapon shines the most. I know, I wasn't expecting this. It's a 180. Outside of Hung Jury, I don't like 180s inside of PvP, but we took this weapon in both quick play and comp, and it put in some work. Granted, under the right conditions. First, you need to play passive with this weapon. You need to play at range. You need to play like a laning Larry. Fellas, it's a scout rifle. This is the play style that you pretty much have to do with every scout rifle, which is why why longer range maps are obviously going to be better for you here, or at least maps with some good lanes. Now, creeping attrition is a beautiful thing to proc inside of PvP. The ability to slow targets, for some reason, messes with the psyche of the opposing guardian. What's more is that the time to kill for this weapon is not good. 1 second. Just like other 180s, if you're not 3-tapping, it is a 1 second TTK, which is not good. However, if you apply slow to that target and you happen to be winning that duel, it doesn't really matter what your time to kill is. They'll try to run away, but they can't. They just kind of hobble, and then you could slowly kill them. Maybe you just want to shoot out their toes, maybe toy with them a little bit, let them get close to that wall, and then finish them. I don't know what it is, guys. I just enjoy this. It's very nice. Now, the main thing is if you're engaging just one target, the chances of you proccing creeping attrition on that target before they die is slim to none. But when engaging multiple targets, that's where it's nice. You literally start the gunfight off with applying slow, which again, messes with the psyche of your enemy. And not just messes with the psyche, literally messes with their aim. If you're used to strafing a certain kind of way, as soon as you get slowed, dude, that throws you off. And it's a good chance it's a GG. This is really where the weapon shines. It's the ability to control those lanes by slowing those targets. And even if you're not the one to kill that enemy, just being able to slow them enough to where your teammates can finish them off, that's really nice. Now keep in mind, freezing targets inside of PvP, not gonna happen. Not often. And not even to your benefit. Unless the target is in their super, you're not gonna get the freeze. And even then, it's not worth it. Somebody the other day was like, Cross, but you can freeze a guardian standing in their well. Dude, you would have to be going against someone completely clueless. Most people that are sitting in a well will instantly shred you if you peek out long enough to engage them with any weapon. But to sit there and land 6 precision shots on a person in a well, to say that's feasible, come on. Now, the beautiful thing is, guys, is the ability to 3-tap. And yes, the scout rifle, just like box breathing on Hung Jury, can achieve that 0.67 time to kill value. You compare it with Massive Bakris, which gives you a PvP bonus damage of 6%, allowing you to 3-tap guardians 6 resilience or lower. But this also takes us to the fatal flaw of this weapon. And ultimately, that comes down to this just being a 180 scout. They have an optimal TTK of 1 second. They either need 3 crits in one body at 9 and 10 resilience, or 2 crits in 2 body at 8 resilience or lower. But either way, it's still a 1 second time to kill value. And most guardians are rocking higher resilience these days. Even if you're not using Bakris, maybe you're rocking my Hoarfrost build here, where I'm collecting stasis shards and getting the 3-tap off, which I'm able to do here with this build, but only on guardians 5 resilience or less. The moment I encounter a higher resilience guardian, this completely negates this build. And suddenly, I go from 0.67 time to kill value to 1 second, which means most weapons are going to beat me, especially pulse rifles. On top of that, Hung Jury, also being a 180 round per minute scout, can do everything that this scout rifle does, at least TTK wise, better and with more forgiveness. Box breathing allows you to 2-crit 1 body. And at the end of the day, if I had to choose a 180 round per minute scout rifle to use, I would still go with Hung Jury and box breathing. Again, it's a beautiful thing to sit here and watch a guardian get slowed. I truly feel like I'm playing with my prey before I end them. And there's something arousing about that. This scout rifle allows me to do so. But yes, there are better options out there. Now this brings us to its PvE performance. We've already talked about how it can slow and freeze targets, which is nice, but this also leads us to its biggest flaw. Its other biggest flaw. Bringing it into lower level PvE activities, enemies are honestly too squishy that you're really not going to be able to take advantage of this. Yes, it has the option to stun unstoppable champions and overload champions, considering it can both slow and freeze, which is nice. Really, having that level of synergy is great. Now somebody brought up, Cross, what if we get anti-barrier scout rifle? Again, the game's not going to let you double dip like that. I know it's double dipping in a way here, but in this case, it's not going to triple dip. But yeah, you can stun overload champions with slow and unstoppable champions with freeze with this single weapon. But you can also do this with like a chill clip fusion rifle. Now, in terms of damage numbers against minor enemies, we're doing 10,102 damage per crit and 6,322 per body. And against Carl, we're doing 4,494 per crit and 2,813 per body. So keep in mind, against red bars, it is doing more damage than, say, a legendary 180. And here you can use things like Mask of Bakris, which gives you a 25% damage bonus to stasis and arc weapons. This cranks our damage values up to here now, which is really nice against Carl. You can also pair this with things like Whisper of Rending, which allows primary ammo weapons to do increased damage to stasis crystals and frozen targets. This is a 43% increase in damage. This brings our damage up to 6,404 per crit and 4,008 damage per body versus a frozen Carl, with the shatter damage doing an additional 11,392 damage to Carl. Whisper of Rending can also be stacked with Mask of Bakris, giving us a 78% increase in bonus damage damage against frozen targets. Now with both of these bonuses, this brings our damage versus a frozen Carl to 8,005 per crit and 5,010 per body, with our shatter damage staying at 11,392. Now on paper, this seems like really good damage. And don't get me wrong guys, it is, but it's not something you can keep up 100% of the time. And that 78% increase in damage is only against frozen targets. Another build we tried out was with the Titan exotic helmet, Cadmus Ridge. This exotic allows Diamond Lance to create stasis crystals on impact when thrown, with more crystals created by hitting bosses and vehicles. Now while using a stasis subclass and behind your rally barricade, rapid precision hits and combatant final blows with a stasis weapon creates a Diamond Lance near you. And we found this build to be pretty decent. We could create Diamond Lances pretty often, allowing us to freeze and shatter targets for extra damage, as well as generate more stasis crystals, which synergizes with our weapon, allowing us to get more armor charge with elemental charge for those 2 stasis surge mods that we have going on with that 17% damage buff and topping off our ammo. And like previously mentioned, we use Whisper of Rending to allow us to do extra damage to stasis crystals and frozen targets as well. Now with all that being said, inside of PvE, I never felt like this exotic, even paired with a stasis build, was anything that special. And the problem is in stasis itself, guys. And look, I love stasis, but let's be real, Strand is the PvE meta. It is so good, especially Suspend, right? Like Suspend with Ambient Leap with Quicksilver is nuts. We talked about this with Salvation Script. It's like, yeah, the rework here for Salvations is fantastic, but at the end of the day, it's still stasis, which in some ways feels kind of left behind in comparison to our 3.0 subclasses and Strand. And then on top of that, when asked about using a stasis weapon, the question that comes up, why not use Agriceptor, which also has the ability to slow and freeze targets? Why not use Riptide with Chill Clip, which could leave your exotic slot open for something else? Again, Wicked Implement has potential, but there are clearly better options currently. I've seen people post builds. People talk about this weapon being great, but I have not found a moment yet where this scout rifle can truly shine. Now this takes us to its exotic catalyst. As of the recording of this video, we have still not found anyone who has unlocked the catalyst. Now I know we had a ton of people come by the stream the other day saying, yo, I've got the catalyst, it just dropped for me. Turns out those bastards were lying. Don't worry, we're tracking down their names right now. I'm gonna take much pleasure in banning each and every one of them. But from the data mines, it states that collecting stasis shards gradually overflows the magazine. Now let me just say this, considering that stasis shards literally reloads the magazine, granted, not overflow it, but reloads it, this just seems redundant. Now, this hasn't dropped yet, so there is a chance, a small, teeny tiny chance, that this is not the exotic catalyst. And this is our moment here where we beg Bungie to please do something other than that. They have an opportunity to make this exotic great. You could give the catalyst a new perk from this season called Collective Action, where collecting elemental pickups or throwing a strand tangle grants a stacking period of increased damage. And this is a 20% buff inside of PvE and a 10% buff inside of PvP, and it would synergize perfectly here. Another great option would have been Headstone. Now I know some people are like, Cross, it already slows and freezes. Why do you need Headstone? Well, when you do land those final blows with a precision shot, it spawns a stasis crystal. And considering red bars are pretty squishy, you don't have to worry about landing 3 precision shots to get that slow off. On top of that, it would just synergize. But more so than that, why not combine the two? Why not have Collective Action and Headstone together for this catalyst? This would synergize beautifully here for Wicked Implements. I really hope that the data mines on the exotic catalyst here are wrong, and that is why it's delayed. Look, I had to run 34 runs for Agriceptor and its exotic catalyst back in the day, and I'm not saying I wouldn't do it again for an exotic catalyst for Wicked Implement. We'll just have to get another bottle of Tito's. However, I would be much more enthused if the exotic catalyst was either Collective Action, Headstone, or combination of the two. That right there would make this exotic an instant must-have for this season. Bungie, make the change now. Currently where this weapon sits is a niche pick. There's a play to be made inside of PvP with it. I enjoy using it. And inside of PvE, you can use it, but unfortunately, there's simply better options. Are we gonna get a 180 round per minute scout rifle buff? Well, based on what's in the mid-season preview that we just went over yesterday, and what Bungie has mentioned about next season sandbox, I don't know if that's the case. I don't see a 180 round per minute scout rifle buff anytime soon, which is why everything is gonna really come down to the exotic catalyst here. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.